Today, I've got a roundup of EX focused aggressive decks for Pokemon Pocket. These are some of the most straightforward decks to build, optimize, and play in the game. So, whether you are looking to have a first deck to jump in with yourself, or you simply want to know exactly what you're going to be playing into as you try to optimize your own decks, today's got you covered. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Pikachu EX is the most straightforward, consistent way to start pumping out massive damage ASAP in Pokemon Pocket right now. Its 2 energy attack can crack for 90 points if your bench is full of lightning Pokemon, like it often is in this deck list. This amount knocks out most non-EX basics in a single blow and clears opposing EXs in just 2 shots. This deck list has flexibility past its namesake, though. Zebstrika is a key card for cleaning up any Pokemon your opponent might have retreated to their bench after they took the first 90-point hit if they survived, and Electrode serves a dual purpose of being a backup attacker dealing 70 for 2, but also importantly having a free retreat cost, which means if your opponent plays a Sabrina to switch out your Pikachu EX, you can switch back into it immediately without the tempo loss of having to sacrifice an energy to do so. Our last stray Pokemon in the deck list is Zapdos EX, which can be a secondary attacker with its 3 energy blast averaging 100 and swinging between 0 and 200 at the extremes. This deck list has flexibility as well in the trainers that it can play, Professor's Research and Pokeball being core, and then you can customize exactly how many copies of X-Speed, Potion, Sabrina, and Giovanni you want to be playing depending on the metagame you're looking to adjust to. Mewtwo EX, in my anecdotal experience, is the most popular deck that I've run into during Pokemon Pocket's soft launch. I assume that is both because this character is popular and it's doing something really straightforward to do that's incredibly powerful. You start cracking for 50 with the Psychic Sphere on your second energy, but the Psy Drive for 4 energy is the big appeal to this deck. 150 points in a single attack knocks out almost every non-EX Pokemon in a single blow, and it KOs basically any EX Pokemon so long as you tap them with a Psychic Sphere prior. Gardevoir is instrumental in this deck's engine getting fully online due to her Pokemon power, letting you attach second Psychic Energy to your active every single turn, which means you can hit them for 150 again and again and again. My sample deck list that's up here on your screen is the most streamlined version, only playing Mewtwo and Gardevoir as Pokemon lines, but it's worth noting this deck list can be pretty dynamic, and people often play additional 5th and 6th basics, ranging from Farfetch'd and Kangaskhan as good early attackers to things like Jinx and even Mr. Mime to allow them to set up to attack in a different way. If you're looking to fit in extra basics on this list, you would trim secondary copies of things like Giovanni, X-Speed, or Potion. Charizard EX is Pokemon Pocket's premier heavy hitter, with Crimson Storm dealing a whopping 200 points of damage, able to knock out basically any card in our first set in a single blow. This attack does demand 4 energy and that you discard 2, so it takes a good bit of setup. In enter Moltres EX, the ideal opener in this deck, the Inferno Dance, on average giving you 1.5 additional energy to your bench Pokemon, lets you power up Charizard to ideally be able to Crimson Storm 2 or 3 times in a row when you switch it up to your active spot. A really key trainer card to be aware of in this deck is definitely X-Speed. Not only does X-Speed allow you to retreat Moltres back into Charizard once you're all set up, but X-Speed smooths out your awkward draws a little bit, where Charmander's your only basic, so you have to retreat it back into your Moltres after you find that with a Pokeball or a Professor Research. This saves you spending your first energy on the game, kind of getting your starting cards into the right position. While the example deck list I have for you here is streamlined with only 2 lines of Pokemon by default, you can definitely replace the red cards with something like Farfetch'd or Kangaskhan to give you another reasonable starter for the games where your Moltres and Charizard don't line up perfectly together. Starme EX is excellent at putting a ton of pressure on your opponent's Pokemon very quickly. For just 2 energies on a stage 1, it hits for 90 damage per attack, while also having a pretty healthy stat line of 130 HP. Starme EX also notably has a completely free retreat cost, allowing you to pull it back to your bench once it takes a hit and gets close to being knocked out, denying your opponent those very valuable 2 knockout points they get from taking an EX down. This deck list also gets to leverage the powerful but high variance supporter Misty to start getting that damage out even faster. Something that's noteworthy is you can actually attack when you go first in Pokemon Pocket, assuming you have something like Misty to generate an energy for you, which means even going first, you can start attacking with Starme EX as early as your second turn. There's a lot of flexibility in this deck list as far as what your second line Pokemon can be. I personally prefer Greninja because I think its Water Shuriken ability is stellar at picking up knockouts on anything your opponent retreated back to their bench after they took that first 90 from Starmie. But things like Articuno EX and even Golduck and Tentagruel can be excellent choices to follow up your Starmie EX's attack or provide key redundancy in the games where you don't open on a Staryu. Finally, we have a Fighting EX aggressive deck headlining Marowak EX. Very powerful 2 energy attack that does on average 80 points of damage, but can high roll for up to 160 while also low rolling for 0. This is my favorite of the deck list I'm featuring in today's roundup, in large part due to the fact that it's not all in on just getting an EX Pokemon up ASAP. Farfetch'd is one of my absolutely favorite starters in the game, getting to deal 40 damage for just 1 energy, and because it's a non-EX Pokemon, your opponent only gets 1 knockout point when they clear it off the board. An ideal start with this deck is going to have either a Farfetch'd or a Sandslash to start, then shift into a second of those 2, and then when your opponent finally has 2 knockout points accrued, we finish up with Marowak EX to be a heavy hitter with a decent hit point pool after your opponent has already knocked out 2 single point Pokemon. This deck list also gets to have the flexibility of playing regular Marowak as well, so in the event that you have 2 Cubones, regular Marowak can even be one of the starting Pokemon that your opponent has to get through. I think these 100 hit point stage 1s tend to line up really well into things like Pikachu and Starmie EX that are cracking for 90 with their early pressure. Hopefully today's deck list roundup was helpful in you finding something to play or helping you better understand the decks that you need to be trying to beat while you build decks for yourself. If you enjoyed my breakdown, be sure to smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you find lots of other fantastic Pokemon Pockets Focus roundup and deck highlights as we dive on into our first month of content after the game's launch.